Nice. Thanks so much for having me here today. I'm really excited. I have never ever presented for such a big stage before. So thanks so much for coming in. And I hope that my talk is gonna inspire some of you. And also, as I'm gonna give you a little bit of like a history lesson here, I hope it's gonna be fun for you to hear where we've come from and where are we going next. Awesome. You ready, guys? Yay! Awesome. Super awesome. So let's kick it off, or what? So today I'm going to talk about the future of agile testing in mobile apps. And the reason why I picked this topic is that future is always very important for us to think about, because that's the best way for us to like look and think about like the things and like what challenges us next, right? And be prepared for it. And a little bit about myself. So I am the CEO and founder of a company called Testlio, which is a global community of software testers that test mobile products. And before I founded the company 5 years ago, I was actually a software tester myself. So I studied development in college, and during my second year in college, I decided to start like I started looking for a job basically. And a lot of my college buddies were telling me that, hey, Kristel, you should start off your career as a tester, because this is always like a entry-level job in the technology industry. And to me, it sounded like an obvious path to take. And like I think a lot of you here in this room disagree with the fact that testing is an entry-level job, because with any profession, like if you want to be very good and if you want to do it really well, you have to be like, it can be very complex and very hard. And so what happened to me was that during my second year in college, a lot of my I went to search for a job as a tester, and I got a job as a tester, and since then I have never looked back. But yeah, and then during the past couple of years after college, I decided that testing is my passion, and that's where I want to be really good at. And then the story of founding my own company came to the fact that back in 2012, I moved away from Estonia to London just to experience something new, and I was just very eager to push my limits and see how can I come or challenge myself in a different environment. And in 2012, I also, as I found my passion in testing, I started looking for like additional opportunities next to my full-time job as a tester to just like improve my skills as a tester. And I found out about like different crowdsourced testing platforms that were like looked very innovative at that point. Like you just register on a website and they connect you with different companies globally that need testing for their products. And what happened to me was that after a couple of months, I was really frustrated as a tester, because first off, my time wasn't really appreciated. So a lot of these crowdsourced testing platforms were like paying to their testers per bug. And then the second aspect came to the fact that the testers were really always competing with each other, but in my opinion, quality should have been always team's responsibility, and it's always everybody's responsibility. Like as a tester, if you don't catch an issue, like you should never be the one who's pointed at like, hey, why didn't you catch this issue? It should be like, okay, how can we prevent this happening next time together as a team, right? And then I started my own company, and to date we are a team of 60 people. So, and we have a global community of about 300 to 400 testers. We've raised 8 million in funding, and today we work with some of the biggest companies in the world. So we're mostly in enterprise, and so I see a lot of companies on a daily basis, how they tackle the challenges in mobile testing and how they look into the future. And I'm gonna say that future is very challenging, because mobile has so many different conditions, and it's really, really hard, even for like the biggest players in the market. So we work with customers like NBA and CBS, Salesforce, and they're all really, really struggling with the fact of mobile. So let's try to look into the future, or what? You ready? Nice. So first off, like I think we all understand that the changes are happening really, really fast these days, and we can't really keep up with all of the changes that are happening. So when we look back into the web industry or coming into the mobile industry has brought so many challenges, such as like they have like devices coming into the market every day, like Android gets versions like after every couple of months. Like it's so challenging for any company to keep up with, and that therefore like testing has become a real challenge. And as the complexity of the mobile products is also increasing, it's really hard to find one way that works for everybody. And there's really not like one method to build a mobile product. Over the past, like now it's 8 years of my experience as a tester and as a CEO of a company, I've seen that like there's really not one methodology to build a mobile product. And the fact that users are becoming more demanding and they are more vocal about like if you fuck something up, then it's gonna be very bad for your brand and for yourself. Then therefore like companies are really, really challenged by the fact that there's so much innovation happening and we can't really adapt all of the changes. And when we look at the testing tools market as well, then we can see that over the past couple of years, like for example, when we look at the Windows mobile phone, for example, that pretty much died out, people started like developing tools for testing on Windows Phone, but like the time just was a waste because it died out, right? So it's really, really hard to keep up with the changes. So I would like to show that. No! Did it work? What's that? Is that my computer? Oh no! That was supposed to be my best slide. Awesome. Sorry about that. But yeah, so the question is, are we in the future now? Like when I look at the companies around the world who test mobile products today, like they really challenge themselves with like they use different tools such as mobile cloud testing platforms, so where you have like you can access like real devices on the cloud and execute your test scripts against it. There's a lot of automation happening. People are looking into the future of AI, but AI is still not there. And considering the fact that mobile is going to be replaced by connected devices in the next 10 years, like, is it even worth like the investment to go in there, right? And we know that connectivity and mobility are already here. So when you looked at the presentation, my presentation description, then it's already here. And we know that when mobile is going to die out in the next 10 years, like Internet of Things is going to take over the market, which is going to bring in even more challenges into the space. And in fact, in 2017, in the last quarter, like Q3, there were several new breakthrough product announcements in the wearables market. And Fitbit and GoPro like really made their way back as a company as well, because people are like really seeing the need and adapting to these different devices. But otherwise, when looking into the future of testing, then like one of the main things that I see when working with so many different customers and talking with so many like VPs of engineers in companies, I see that like the customer experience, the need for great customer experience is never going to go away. But still, like more than half of the companies, like big companies, are struggling with finding the one right method to build a great customer experience for your companies. And it's an interesting fact as well that by 2020, 33% of the budgets are allocated for testing. So testing is becoming more and more important. And if you're interested in reading more about the future, then I definitely recommend you to look into a report that Capgemini put together. It's called the World Quality Report, and so you can read a lot of interesting statistics, what the companies are challenging with, and how to move forward. And when we look into the future, then I already mentioned that mobile will be replaced, and so now we need to understand like how much should we even invest into the future of mobile testing from here on, right? Like are already like the strategies that we're using today, are these the ones that we should just keep up with and just go with the flow? You never know. I don't know either, unfortunately. And future is really full of virtual reality and AR devices, and it's literally like changing the way we do things today. Oh yeah, the Giphy wasn't working. You mean we're in the future? So are we in the future? So today I'm actually going to give you a quick tour on one of our customers that is serving 100 million users, and they're doing it in a very agile way in the mobile world. But yeah, as I mentioned, like the world is going to be taken over AR and VR devices, so it's definitely very exciting. And I think with the coming of AR and virtual reality, like there's a very cool company called Magic Leap that is probably the most secretive company at the moment. They raised 2 billion, and they want to come up with like a device that, or with a lens where you can see virtual reality through your own eyes. And they raised 2 billion to date with like a valuation of 6 billion. So this can be our future in the next 10 years, and it's scary. And therefore, like even my topic of talking about the future of mobile apps is maybe we are in the future already, you know. But yeah, now I would love to take you to a quick tour into the past. Yay, who loved history lessons? No, oh, there, I saw a hand, nice, high five. So yeah, I think it would be good to go over like some of the things that we've learned from the past and where we've actually come from. I think the word agile really comes from the web industry. So like the web products became very thin, and like it became really easy to release features on any of the web platforms, right? And so I think all of the agile as we know it today is optimized with web-centric technologies. So you can push updates without like any friction, and a lot of the tools that were developed for web platforms are now like really accelerating how humans test the products as well. And we can already see, and I think a lot of these discussions that you've maybe been to today, you can see that DevOps is also replacing manual QA a lot of the times. And so the way I see the web industry is that the need for like manual QA isn't as big as it is for mobile, and it really comes down to the fact that like if you see an issue happening in production, you can push an update like with a single click, and like it's poof, like it's magic, it's done, and like all of the users are gonna see like the recent or the most latest update immediately, where compared to mobile, it's not that easy anymore, right? Like, so the cost of an issue becomes more and more expensive. Yeah, I think one of the good thing about web is also that it's cross-platform, right? Even though for mobile today there are already like a lot of tools that allow us to develop cross-platform as well. Like still over 90% of the companies are still choosing to go native for mobile products. So that brings us to the fact that for web it's really easy to release fast and with quality, but on mobile the challenge doesn't go away. But yeah, we still remember that Internet Explorer was pretty big of a headache for all of us as testers. By the way, can I ask how many of you are testing mobile apps today? Like maybe less than half of the audience here. That's cool. So I have more to teach you as well, I think. But yeah, now let's talk a little bit about the mobile industry. So as we can all see, like the first web browser, like that was pretty much commercialized, came in 1994. But what was the first smartphone? Does anyone know? Does anyone know what was the first smartphone that came to the market? Nope. I don't hear any right answers yet, but it wasn't Nokia, it wasn't an iPhone. It was actually a phone that came into the market in 1992, and it was developed by IBM, and it was called Simon. Yeah, it was called Simon, and it was the first device actually that was had like a cell phone, and it was it also had a digital assistant, and it had like an LCD touchscreen, and it also allowed third-party apps to be downloaded into the product, like if you wanted to go through the hassle of like erasing your memory and like putting having more disk space. But yeah, they were able to sold 50,000 units at the price tag of $900. But obviously, at this time in 1992, Simon was way ahead of the curve, and therefore it died out. And so, yeah, the device itself was like you could take there was like an address book that looked like a folder. You could take notes, you could draw, and it was just really interesting. So I recommend you to take a look at it, where we've actually come from. So it's a very long time ago. But yeah, the smartphone actually became widespread with the release of iPhone. So when did that happen? It happened in 2007, and yeah, it was really. I think it became commercialized in 2008 when App Store was released to the market, and that's where like all of the third-party app makers could like put their app into the App Store and really like get their app out there for a lot of people. And quickly right after that, when App Store was released, Android came out with their first device as well, and I can't remember what was the name. Yeah, it was called HTC Dream, and yeah, it was released in 2008. But now, when I talk a little bit about like the like some of the first applications that were ever released for mobile, the best one or the most well-known is probably Phone Saber. So it was a swinging lightsaber, but like quickly after the release, it was actually taken down by Lucasfilm, and it was released by Lightsaber. So you could use your device to make the noise of the lightsaber, which was very awesome. And then some of the apps that were also part of the first, like when App Store came out, they had like 500 applications in the App Store. It was, they had like Evernote, for example. I think everybody knows Evernote, and Evernote has been like one of the most successful notes-taking application since then. And then also the other example is like the New York Times, and and in case of New York Times, it's still like one of the best applications in the App Store, and it actually hasn't changed that much. The only thing is probably like, or one of the biggest things is that when you first downloaded the New York Times app from the App Store, then you actually had to have Wi-Fi to use the app and read news from there. So really interesting, right? Like we've come a long way since 2008, and now it's been almost 20 years. And yeah, so what has really changed during or since smartphones became commercialized. I think a lot of the people that are here in the audience already think about some of the things that what happened. So I think number one thing is definitely the fact that there are infinite number of challenges, right? So first off is definitely the fact that today the Android market has like tens of thousands of variations of Android devices, which makes testing very challenging. So how do you prioritize, right? Like how do you, like you can't, like before you release your product, you can't really test on every one of these devices and be sure that like everything is going to work, right? Then like some of the challenges we also see is that devices have like different sensors, for example, that impact like the performance of the app. There are different operating systems, network conditions. When you want to push like an update, you have to really compile the app and push it to the App Store, and then basically hope that like Apple is gonna like actually accept the app to the App Store as well, which makes like this entire process like really, really long. And it's interesting when I think back into the web industry. Then like releases were like done immediately, right? But with mobile, you can't do that anymore. And I don't know if it's ever gonna change, like if Apple is ever gonna change their process of like letting people like put anything into the App Store, whatever they want, right? But yeah, it's like it's becoming a real challenge for any company out there to test under real life conditions. And yeah, before we maybe even notice we're going to be out of the mobile industry, and we have to start tackling new problems with like AR and Internet of Things, right? So the connected devices industry is already here, and it's already like having a huge impact as well. But yeah, it's when I really think back, then the word Agile became definitely from the fact that web was like you could release stuff like so fast that like like people wanted to start replicating the exact same conditions for mobile, but it's just not possible, which is a bit sad, but I guess we'll be fine. By the way, is that time until I have left, or is it gonna be how long have I spoken? Okay, I have 15 minutes left. Okay, awesome. Sorry, I didn't know that. So is Agile even possible the way without like sacrificing quality? What do you think? No? Yes? Yes. It is. But I think the one thing is that we have to redefine what Agile really means for mobile, because there's no way we can push updates immediately into the App Store or Play Store. It's gonna take time, and like the one thing that we're also challenged by is that every time when you push an update, like some of the users might not update their apps for like weeks, and they still are gonna work on the with the broken product. And so it's a real challenge that before you release anything to the App Store or Play Store, you have to make sure that it actually works as well. But works is very, it can be very wide as well. Yeah, now I just want to quickly like give like a case study of one of the customers that we've worked with, and today they are called Outlook Mobile, and they serve 100 million users, and they have a rating in the App Store of 4.5, and Play Store is like over 4 a little bit. So it's a bit lower, obviously, because of the reason that Android is more diverse, and it's more challenging to find all these use cases that help them to build a great product. So, but yeah, like in case of Outlook Mobile, we started working with them back in 2014. So back in 2014, this company with this little team was called Accompli. And they were a very agile team. So they came from like the mail industry already, like they had built Simbra, for example, and they knew what they had to do to be successful in this mobile or this web email app industry. And so in 2014, they raised 7 million in funding with a team of 20. They decided to start being very fast and release features for their customers really fast. And so that's where they decided to take weekly release cycles for their users. So every Monday they met, they went through all of the data that they had gathered over the weekend, like for example, as testing happened for them during the weekends, they got to know about like the highest priority issues, and then they also looked into the feedback that came in from like the App Store and Play Store, and they always implemented all of that feedback into their every sprint. And then Mondays usually ended up being the days where they looked into the data, they made some fixes, and then they pushed like their product to the App Store or Play Store accordingly, which was very interesting. And then from Tuesday to Friday, when they had done the sprint planning on Monday, they started to release features for their phone or for their apps. And then over the 4 days, they went very fast. They decided to release features on a weekly basis and update their users with their product on a weekly basis as well. And so quickly, right after like 18 months of development, they came up with the product, and they were acquired by Microsoft for 200 million, and they were turned into Outlook Mobile. And obviously, with a lot of these acquisitions these days, is that a lot of companies are forced into a process that is like being set with the by the bigger company or by the acquirer. But in case of Outlook, like they really went in and said like, hey, you guys don't have a mobile product, like you're Microsoft, you don't still have a mobile email application, so let us take the things out there as fast as we are used to, and we're going to show you that we can do it. And now it's really shown that they've been really they've done they've built up their process really well. So seriously, like they look into they have weekly sprints still, even at the level of having 100 million users. They're actively engaging their beta community, so they give their app to their beta users on a weekly basis as well to gain feedback. They also analyze and interview like some of their churn customers, for example, to look like how can they solve their problems even faster. Then the big part of like their agile testing process is that they actually look into their App Store reviews and categorize them on a weekly basis. So what we've seen over the past years is that a lot of the times when customers leave you like 1-star rating in the App Store, it's because of a reason that it just doesn't have the feature that they've always dreamed of, right? And so now they're like categorizing App Store ratings like on a weekly basis. They just take a percentage of all of the reviews, and then they categorize them, and then they implement this feedback into the next sprint release. And that's how I think like why customers have been why they've been so successful and being able to make their customers happy is because they really care about the feedback. It's really like they don't have like a huge product or issue backlog either. So they clean up their product or issue backlog pretty much every week, and they just want to move fast and keep the noise level as like down as possible. What's interesting is that I know a lot of you here probably in the audience are wondering like why Outlook doesn't automate or anything. And I think the challenge is there that the return on investment for such a big product is very low. And so the VP of engineer, or one of the founders of this company, he's always had that mindset that automation has a very low return on investment. And if we want to consider that, if we want to release our product, like for hundreds of millions of users, and I need to write the scripts, and then what I end up doing is like I end up maintaining those scripts. So at some point they were using different cloud testing providers where you write your scripts, you can execute your scripts against like thousands of devices in the cloud, but it became a headache for them because it just didn't have an enough return on investment for them, because they were always moving very fast. Well, in mobile world, very fast. Like in web, you could do it on a daily basis and do it like hundreds of times, right? But in mobile, it's just not possible anymore. And they just saw that there is no return on investment. But one of the things that the founder of this company is very excited about is like if we solve the problem, or if we see the future of AI and like how we can predict like all of the user flows through computer vision, for example. But this is something that we for example haven't looked into at all, but it's definitely worth taking a look at. Yeah, I think today, like a lot of the companies that we work with and who want to look into the future and want to be like the fastest moving companies out there, like a lot of these companies gather a lot of data. They have a lot of SDKs. They have SDKs that analyze the feedback, or like that analyze the use cases of the customers that they're going through. But by the end of the day, all of these tools that we have are just human acceleration, right? Like all of these tools, like all the analytics platforms or the machine learning that we're doing on automation, is that they provide us a lot of data, but by the end of the day, if you want to move fast, like and as a small team, you don't really have that time to analyze all of it. So you need to make your decisions fast, and the best way to get into these decisions is like looking at the user feedback, right? And then making your decisions based on that. And yeah, but mobile testing is definitely like, testing is still very unstable. And when we look at the, when we've read like the mobile quality report that was done by Capgemini, companies like know that customer experience is like the biggest, like their biggest concern, and they want to take care of it, but still like no one has been able to build one method that works for every product, and so there's still a very, very long way to go. And yeah, but yeah, I think one of the things that I also wanted to emphasize is that with mobile, the interesting thing is that it feels like we're always behind the train, right? You have a new device that's coming on the market, or you have like new sensors that are coming on with like the newest iPhone, for example, and it's just creating so much headache that it always feels like running behind the train. And I don't know if that's gonna happen or if that's gonna change over the next 10 years when we still have mobile. So, but yeah, it's we're like when we and when I've looked into the market of like different bots that analyze like user feedback and like take screenshots of different, like, and compare different screens of different mobile products, is that like even if you end up like running these, like seeing scripts or seeing these use cases or pictures of like your different user screens, it's that like it's gonna end up like just causing a lot of noise and a lot of data that a lot of like, for example, a lot of like mobile app developers don't have time to look at. So it's really finding that balance, and it's really a challenge. But yeah, the way we as testers can adapt to all of these changes is to just keep an open mind, and we know that the need for great customer experience is never ever going to go away. So we just need to change along with all of these markets, and then we're going to be fine. Because I've heard that a lot of the testers are really worried about like, hey, if manual QA is ever going to be replaced. But I think that's only when singularity comes, and we're going to go to space and just hang out there. So, yeah, that's WALL-E. Has everyone seen WALL-E? Awesome. But yeah, I think the key takeaways from my presentation today is that like the challenge today is that mobile testing industry is like it's gonna keep growing and it's gonna keep causing more headaches. So as a company, you really need to think about like adapting your user feedback into the features that you're building for your customers. We know that mobile will be replaced in the next 10 years with more advanced technologies, but we just need to keep an open mind and keep going. And I think agility, in a sense, how we release products for web, is redefined for mobile, because we're never ever going to be able to do releases multiple times a day and then expect that all of our customers are going to update the app and then magic is going to happen, right? So it's a real challenge. But yeah, anyways, that's it. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, 40 minutes went faster than I expected, but I hope that's okay.
Then we have more questions. Time for the question. Oh, I don't know who is the first. Then nobody is.
You have to run very, very far. Yep,
so,
exactly.
So now the prize will go for the last who asked the question.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
I'm interested you address the problems that as a testers we are facing in the future quite well. But I haven't seen any proposal how to tackle them other than this outlook, like letting the users use the application, get the feedback, and react upon that. Where is the role of the tester in this?
So the test, well, that's a great question, by the way. I was thinking about what the audience might ask, but I think the best answer or the strategy to do it is a lot of our customers today are now adapting their user feedback into their release process, and the testers are actually the ones who are going through the feedback, and whenever they execute their test cases or do their exploratory testing, for example, they accept the feedback, and then whenever they when they have to do testing, then they focus on the areas that have caused the most troubles for our customers. So for example, in case of Lyft, a company outside of in the US, a ride-sharing application, they for example look into their App Store reviews as well, and if they see a 1-star rating in the App Store, for example, they and it's an issue, it's an actual issue that they haven't been able to reproduce, then the testers are the ones who are actually going in there and figuring out okay, what are the things that we need to do to reproduce it and then fix it. So testers still have a huge role in this entire process.
Okay.
Hi. And yeah, with the sorry, go ahead. I can talk with you about later about this as well. Come to me.
Hi. You mentioned AI. What is your take on AI in testing and mobile testing? Do you think it will happen widely in coming years, or it's another thing that just skipped fastly?
So AI is still not here. I think there are a lot of companies out there that promote themselves as AI testing companies, but it's not actually here, because what they actually do is that they basically build an SDK, they go into and analyze all of the actions that the users are taking, and then they just keep replicating all of the main user flows, and then they try to predict issues. But I think going from there, I think maybe something will happen in the next 5 years, but I still don't know. But there are a lot of companies that do that, and it's definitely helpful, but I'm not sure if you want to release your products fast and you don't have a big enough team, then maybe it's not worth the investment still. Any other questions? Oh.
Hi.
Hi.
I'd like to hear a little bit of a background story about the mobile market getting deprecated in 10 years or so.
Oh, interesting. So I think there's just been a lot of, I think coming from the desktop, going into web, and actually now we're in mobile, I think it's just part of an evolution, right? Where we already see that there are 7.7 billion connected devices, and it's going to grow even further by 2020. So you can see all of these, all this information. Like, I'm definitely recommending you to read the World Quality Report. It has a lot of interesting data about like the future of testing as well, and like how like connected devices are going to impact the way we do it today.
More questions?
Thanks for the speech and the question.
Thank you for coming.
Fast releases, do you think that could be a problem? As a user, a weekly release of a mobile application probably would annoy me, just update. Won't that be a problem for users, and weekly isn't that way too often?
Well, that's what we haven't seen yet, because like a lot of users are always complaining and they want the updates as fast as possible, and so customers still have to have like fast releases. So like a week isn't that long of a time, and you can still keep your customers not being churned, right? So yeah, I think 1 week is fine, or bi-weekly, but yeah, if you have to, like, if an app would have like daily updates, then definitely not all of the users are gonna actually push an update into their phone. Like, for example, I'm a great example. Maybe it's because I'm a tester as well, but I usually update my apps like once a month, for example. So I don't have the automatic update on my phone.
Yeah, more questions? Just a minute. Everybody needs to hear.
I can, well.
With this, you're saying like with native codes, there's a lot of movement from like web development societies where they doing like React Native, and you can push daily, like literally it takes 5 minutes.
I read an article about like Facebook actually doing it, but again, like it is going to be cross-platform, and I'm not sure if like all of the people are want to actually take that direction. And you can do like front-end changes, but like still App Store, like Apple wants to control everything that you release. So it can't be like, you can't expect that you're going to be able to do it like every day, multiple times a day. Sorry?
Apple has an exception for JavaScript.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, any more?
So many questions.
Yeah, because the last...
But maybe it's easier if you come to me, because I think we're going over time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
This is a quick one.
Oh, okay.
You mentioned multiple times that mobile is going to be replaced.
Yep.
What's the source?
Sorry?
What's the source for that information?
Oh.
How do you know that?
Oh, well, we can already see that, I guess, from like all of the things that are coming to the market, like VR, AR, connected devices. It's just going to be eventually announced or replaced. And one day we're going to have a lens that is going to have like all of the data, and we don't need our phones anymore, right? Well, Google Glass was ahead of the time, like maybe Simon was ahead of the time before like mobile or smartphone was actually commercialized. So it is going to be replaced. There's no doubt, I think.
Okay.
At least that's my opinion.
Time is up, and the last question we hear was there, so this guy gets the prize. So thank you for the nice presentation.
Oh, nice! Congrats on the prize. What's the prize?